begins as a girl is being harassed by some men. However, we meet Yuya, a boy that tries to speak up against the men. But the men call him fat and ugly, and they end up beating him up. Eventually the police arrive, and the men run away. The girl thanks him for his help, but Yuya claims he is fine and walks away. We learn that he was taught by his grandfather to always be kind and to help those in need. When he gets home, we see his house is covered with graffiti, calling him names. We learn that ever since he was young, he has been bullied by everyone. Even his parents treated him poorly, because his siblings were considered beautiful, but he was ugly. And when he got to middle school, things got worse for him, as he would get beaten at school. It was only his grandfather who would look after him, always reminding him that being kind will make him happy. His grandfather eventually died, but he left his house and all his savings to him. His parents tried to contest the will, but in the end Yuya was given everything, but his parents completely abandoned him, so he lives alone and has to work part-time every day. At school, Yuya is graduating from middle school, but in his yearbook, there are only mean comments about him. As he tries to leave, he gets stopped by his bullies. They remind him that even though he is graduating, he is still their errand boy. Yuya says he needs to get to his job, but the bullies beat him up, and we see his brother and sister just watching from a distance. When he finally gets to his job, his boss is fed up with him being late and tells him not to come back. At home, Yuya has a depressing meal, and as he looks at himself in the mirror, he throws a tantrum and smashes the mirror, thinking nothing will change even after his graduation. He punches the wall, and it suddenly opens a hidden room. There are a bunch of strange items in the room, and Yuya thinks they must be his grandfather's souvenirs from traveling. He finds a peculiar door, and when he opens it, it leads to a strange room. He gets scared as a notification appears. As he reads it, he learns that the door is connected to another world. There are a number of notifications that tell him about various functions that are available to him, like the ability to store items, and he can control who can use the door. Although he is confused by the functions, he thinks the system is like a game, so he decides to check his status. But when he sees it, he is devastated to find all his stats are so low. He looks around the room, and when he looks outside, he finds that it really is another world. He finds a note on the table, although he can't read it at first. He has a language skill which helps him to understand it. He learns that the owner of the house was a great sage, but he is about to die, so he left it so that whoever finds it will become its new owner, including all of its contents. The house is protected by magic, so no one is able to break in beside the owner. He finds a bunch of weapons inside, but as he examines them, he finds them to be exceptional items and extremely dangerous. He has a look outside and tries swinging his sword around. He falls over, but he manages to learn a basic sword skill. Thinking it could be useful, Yuya trains with each of the weapons, finding that they are all god-tier items, and he gains a number of skills. Despite this, his stats still remain at level 1, and he wonders how to increase it. He puts the weapons away into his storage, but there is suddenly a monster that attacks. Yuya is terrified, but soon realizes that his house is protected. The monster is a level 300 bloody ogre, and it smashes against the magical wall. It grabs a tree, trying to use it to break in, but it doesn't work. Yuya thinks he should try fighting back, so he throws his spear, which goes right through the monster, and instantly kills it in one hit. The spear returns to him, and the monster disappears, dropping a number of items. Yuya suddenly reaches level 100, and he is shocked to see his stats. After allocating all his points, Yuya decides to call it for the day, and when he tries to leave, he gets a cash-out option, which converts the items from the monster into money. Yuya is confused seeing this, but gladly accepts it. Later that night, Yuya goes through a change in his body, as it completely transforms. And when he wakes up, he finds his body is different, and his clothes no longer fit. He's not sure what is going on, and his mirror is still broken, so he decides to look for some clothes. There are magical clothes in the sage's house, which freely adjust in size, and provide a range of magical bonuses. Yuya wonders about the identity of the sage, and he looks around his garden. He is suddenly attacked by a level 200 slime monster, but this time, Yuya calmly brings out his spear, and easily destroys the monster. It drops some coffee slime, and even a rare necklace, which has the ability to restore his magic power. He levels up again, gaining a presence detection skill, and he is already at level 150. He tries some of the coffee slime, and it's actually quite good. He decides to use some of the money he has made to buy a new uniform, ordering it to be ready for the start of high school. After that, he spent every day in the other world, and he starts to enjoy himself, even forgetting his depression. He would train and learn as much as possible about the other world. An elite goblin attacks his house, but Yuya has become completely different, skillfully fighting against it, and even using a skill to destroy the goblin. Time flies and the start of high school arrives, and everyone is immediately drawn by him. Even his siblings seem to be in awe. In class, he is approached by his bullies, but they don't recognize him, thinking he is a transfer student. When he tells them he is Yuya, everyone is shocked, and they don't believe him. When he goes to the bathroom, he is completely shocked to see himself for the first time since his transformation. After class, he is approached by his brother and sister, wondering what he did to change so drastically, calling him a loser, but there is suddenly a limo that stops, and the girl he saved is looking for him. He wonders who she is, and she reminds him how he saved her, and Yuya wonders how she knows his name. She admits she looked into him because she wanted to thank him, and she introduces herself as Kaori. She wonders if he would like to join the Osei Academy, and Yuya recognizes it as an academy for the super elite. We learn that Kaori is on the student council, and her father is the chairman of the academy. Yuya is flattered by the offer, but thinks he isn't smart enough to join such an academy. His brother interrupts, asking to join the academy and saying that they are superior to Yuya in both academics and sports. But Kaori refuses, because they are insulting Yuya when he is her hero, and she reveals that she has already looked into them and knows all about their nefarious behavior against Yuya. She goes on to tell Yuya that their academy emphasizes personality rather than just academics, so it would be no problem for him to enroll. Her attendant suggests showing him the academy, so she pulls him away, and they head off, while his siblings can't believe what happened. They arrive at the academy, and it's a famous school filled with students that excel. He meets with the chairman Tsukasa, who thanks him for saving his daughter. Yuya says it wasn't a big deal, but Kaori says he was the only one that helped her. Tsukasa invites him to join the school, even offering to pay his tuition as thanks for helping his daughter. But Yuya is hesitant, thinking he won't fit in, because only geniuses are normally accepted. Tsukasa says that geniuses are just normal people that have found the right way to work hard and use less time, but Yuya thinks they are gifted with talent. Tsukasa tells him that everyone has their own talents, and through challenges and having fun, he will eventually learn what his talents are, saying that he is still young. He suggests Yuya to try out the school for a day. A teacher named Sawada enters, and Tsukasa introduces her as a renowned scientist, but her classes are popular and easy to understand. Yuya prepares for his first class, and worries he isn't over his head, but he thinks that things couldn't be worse than at his normal school. He gets called in, and he introduces himself, but all the students appear stunned. He worries about what they think of him, but they are all actually stunned by how handsome he looks. He takes a seat at the back, and he shares a book with the girl next to him, but she is a bit cold toward him, and he worries that she already hates him. Kaori wonders if Yuya will fit in his class, and as the class goes on, he actually finds the class pretty normal, except the students are much more active and engaged. During their break, a bunch of students try to get to know him, asking questions like if he is an idol, and if he has a girlfriend. A student named Ryo stops them from harassing him, and he takes Yuya to the cafeteria to get some lunch. Yuya is amazed seeing the menu, and it's all free, so Yuya thinks it's like a dream. They sit with another student named Shingo. They start talking about anime, and Yuya is surprised they are just like him. As he eats, he notices that everyone is looking at him, and he thinks it's because he is wearing a different uniform. Shingo asks him if he is in any clubs, but Yuya says he is not a part of any. Ryo is also not in a club, but it's because he is good at all kinds of sport and has trouble picking just one. Shingo reveals he is part of the gaming club, and Yuya is surprised there are allowed consoles at school, but Shingo says it's fine as long as they don't play during class, and as they talk about video games, Yuya becomes more comfortable with them. At the end of the day, he meets with Tsukasa and admits that he had a good time, and Yuya decides he wants to join the school. As he leaves the room, he runs into Kaori, who wonders if he is joining the school. He tells her his decision, and she is glad he decided to stay. She invites him to join her after school, and they check out some shops in a popular area. Yuya wonders if this is where she hangs out with her friends, but she reveals that she doesn't hang out too often because people seem to be hesitant about her family and her father. But she says that he is different. Yuya gets nervous, so he suggests checking out the crepe shop. Looking at the prices, he is glad he has been cashing out from the other world. As they try the crepes, they both have a good time, and Yuya wants to try the other flavors, but he suddenly thinks that if he eats too much, he might return to his original shape. He asks Kaori how she recognized him when he looked so different, but she says that although he is a bit slimmer, she recognized him because his eyes still look the same. She offers him a bite of her crepe, since he wanted to try other flavors, so he takes a bite, but is a bit embarrassed. She suddenly realizes how he is feeling, but he also offers her a bite. She nervously accepts it, taking a bite, and some girls watch on, thinking they are super cute together. Later that night, Yuya decides to head back to the other world, putting on a full set of armor. He heads inside, confronting the monsters that appear. Even though he is still scared, he cuts them down, and sees he has leveled up to 235, but realizes that the speed he is leveling it has become much slower. So he thinks about leaving his house to find stronger monsters to fight. Thinking of his time at the academy, Yuya wants to find a new challenge, but as he heads out his gate, he suddenly hears a scream. He pulls out his spear and rushes toward the scream. He finds a number of soldiers that were brutally killed. He notices a monster, and it's a level 200 goblin general. Yuya can tell it is dangerous, but he sees a girl behind it. He throws his spear at it, but the goblin deflects it. However, in that moment, Yuya comes crashing down with his foot, and the goblin is defeated. He turns toward the girl, but she calls out to him because there is another goblin behind him. He gets blown away, and he can tell that it is both stronger and faster than him. But Yuya doesn't give up, thinking he has other strengths. He uses his spear to vault over the goblin, and he switches to his bow, launching a barrage of arrows. He then switches again to his sword, and splits the goblin in half. He checks up on the girl, wondering about the other humans in this world, but she ends up fainting, and he hears some men approaching, so he uses an invisibility skill to avoid them. There are knights that come looking for the girl, and we learn she is a princess named Lexia. Back at his house, Yuya thinks about the encounter, wondering if the girl was okay. But since there were knights that appeared to help her, he thinks she should be okay. Looking at his shirt, he thinks that he should try buying some new clothes, since he has made some money from the other world. We see a mall, and as Yuya walks around, people stare at him, thinking he must be some kind of actor or model. His shirt is enchanted to stay clean, but he thinks he should buy some other clothes, so he doesn't always look the same. Meanwhile, we see a director yelling at another man. The man is the manager for a model named Sho, but Sho hasn't turned up for their shoot. The manager gets a call from Sho, and learns he is on his way. But the director gets mad, because Sho isn't respecting the time of everyone there, who are all ready for the shoot. Especially Miyu, their other model who has been waiting all morning. The theme of the photo shoot is focused around being a couple, so it's impossible to shoot it without him. The director thinks about what they should do, and since everyone is waiting around to start, he decides to look for a replacement within the mall. As Yuya shops around, he is overwhelmed by the number of choices. He is approached by some girls, and he worries it's a sales tactic. They ask to know more about him, and even offer to help him shop. He doesn't want them to feel bad, so he turns them down as politely as possible. The girls are left stunned, and they start freaking out over him, but Yuya wonders if he dealt with them in the right way. The director struggles to find a replacement, but tells his assistant they can't give up. They pass by Yuya, and the director instantly thinks he is the one. Yuya gets approached, and the director explains their situation to him. Yuya is nervous to do it, but he thinks about all the people who are counting on him, and he ends up agreeing to be their model. He acts as the boyfriend for their shoot, taking photos in a range of different outfits and positions. The director tells him to look sexier, but Yuya struggles with the direction. But Miyu tells him he is doing well for his first time, and Yuya is captured by her looks. She thanks him for saving them, but Yuya notices her getting closer to him. The director notes that Yuya is looking kind of stiff. They move to their next location, and Yuya is impressed at Miyu for being such a pro, even though they are around the same age, so he is determined to give it his best. But Miyu grabs onto him for the next shot, and he panics as she pushes up against him. The director tells her to get even closer, so she puts her arms around him and pushes up even closer, which makes Yuya even more embarrassed, and a crowd starts to watch them. Meanwhile, in the other world, we see Princess Lexia as she thinks about how she was saved. She decides to head out, and her knight wonders where she is going. She says she is heading back to the dark forest to find the person who saved her, but her knight says it's impossible for someone to be living out in that forest. But Lexia insists she was saved by someone and must thank the person who saved her. Her knight warns her of the dangers of going back, but she tells them they are all going to join her this time, and they wonder who she inherited such reckless behavior from. Back at the mall, the shoot is over, and Yuya is exhausted. Miyu thanks him once again, and Yuya suddenly chokes on his drink. Miyu offers him her handkerchief, but Yuya worries because he is sweaty, but he can't use his sleeve either, because the clothes aren't his. Yuya thinks about his experience modeling, and thinks Miyu is amazing at it, but Miyu says she has just gotten used to it, mentioning how she used to make lots of mistakes when she was still new. He thinks about how it's his first time wearing such fashionable clothes, because he never had the chance in his past. He wonders why she started modeling, and she says she just wanted to be noticed, because her parents were always too busy to spend time with her, and then after she started getting some fans, she continued because she had people cheering her along, and she liked that she could bring happiness to the people that saw her. She tells him he can also do it, saying he should take it at his own pace, and reminds him to just enjoy all the moments along the way. As they chat, the director takes a bunch of candid pictures of them, but at that moment, shows suddenly arise, and the crowd is excited to see him. He approaches Miyu, saying they can get on with their shoot. He pushes her up against the wall, wanting to ask her out for drinks, but Yuya can see she is uncomfortable. He interrupts them, and Sho wonders who he is. Sho tries to punch him, but Yuya throws him away. Everyone is shocked, and Yuya thinks about how slow the punch felt. He worries about causing a scene, thinking he will be in trouble for beating up such a good-looking guy, but the crowd cheers for him, thinking he is so cool. Sho wonders how he lost, even though he does boxing. The director tells him to leave, because they caught everything in 4K. Sho runs off, and Miyu thanks him for his help, revealing that Sho has been following her around, and she didn't know what to do about it. But the director says that Sho's behavior has always been bad, and with this, he is unlikely to work again. He wonders if Yuya is interested in doing more modeling. Yuya thanks him for giving him the opportunity to work with so many professionals, but he thinks he isn't good enough to do the job properly, so he ultimately turns them down. The director respects his decision, and they end up giving him all the clothes from the shoot as thanks for his help, because they weren't able to pay him since he is just an amateur. Yuya thinks having the experience was enough, but the director says it's only natural to be compensated for work, especially since he was the one who saved them, so Yuya accepts it. Miyu hopes to work with him again in the future, and they wish him good luck. In their car afterwards, the director thinks it's a shame that Yuya didn't want to continue, knowing he would have been a star. Looking back at the photos, Miyu thinks about how different Yuya was, and the director can see her turning red, so he teases her about having a thing for him. Yuya organizes his wardrobe, packing all of his new clothes, and we see that his photo has gotten around. The agencies wonder who he could be, and we see a woman who is desperate to sign him, ordering her associate to find him before any other agencies get to him. Seeing how he was able to stand up next to Miyu when he is just an amateur, she is determined not to let him get away. Meanwhile, in the other world, we see Lexia's knights fighting against some goblins. The knights are struggling, and there is suddenly a goblin that appears behind her, but the goblin is defeated, as Yuya makes his appearance. They are shocked to see him, and Yuya effortlessly slays the goblins. Lexia is glad to see he is real, and Yuya finishes off the goblins. He treats one of the knights, and Lexia approaches him, saying she came to the dark forest because she had something to tell him. Yuya wonders what she wants, and she suddenly asks if he will marry her, causing them all to be shocked. Her knight wonders what she is thinking, reminding her of her position as a princess, saying they know nothing about Yuya, but Lexia insists it's love at first sight. The two start arguing, but Yuya interrupts, saying it's dangerous in the forest, so he invites them back to his house, which is a surprise for them, to learn he actually lives in the forest. They are amazed to see his house, and the knight introduces himself as Owen, the captain of the Arzelia Knights, and he introduces Lexia as the first princess of Arzelia, mentioning that she is second in line for the throne. She thanks him for saving them once again, and Yuya starts to worry about his behavior, after learning she is a princess. But they tell him not to worry, since it's not an official visit, and he is their savior. Yuya introduces himself, but they find his name strange and think he could be from another country. Lexia fantasizes about him being royalty from another country, but Owen worries about other possibilities. Owen reveals that they were there to look for him, because the first time he saved Lexia, she didn't get the chance to thank him. She says she has been thinking about him ever since that day, saying that it's the first time she has ever felt that way, and she asks him to marry her once again. Yuya is overwhelmed, and thinks the proposal is just too sudden, making the princess think that love can't be so simple. Thinking about every romance novel she has read, love needs to come with obstacles, and it would be boring if things went so smoothly. So she asks to start out as his friend. Yuya gets nervous, thinking about his past experiences, but agrees to be her friend. Owen mentions there is one other reason they are there, and that is the king would like him to visit the royal palace, so that he can also offer his gratitude in person. Yuya is hesitant, but Owen says it's a royal command, and he can't leave until Yuya agrees. So Yuya has no choice but to accept the invitation. Owen mentions that it will take about 5 days including travel, but Yuya thinks it would interrupt starting at his new school, so he asks to delay the meeting, but Owen says that they are happy to wait for him whenever he decides to go. They take their leave, and Lexia tells him to prepare himself, because she plans to win his heart the next time they meet. Somewhere in the royal capital, we see a man reporting about their failed attempt on Lexia's life. We see a masked man, and we learn that he had sent assassins after Lexia, but they ended up in the dark forest, and the assassins were taken out by monsters. But the masked man wonders how Lexia managed to return unarmed, and warns his man not to fail him again. He takes off his mask, revealing a disfigured face, and we learn he is part of the royal family, as he swears to get his revenge on Lexia.